I authorized to sign, do I need special authorization?
I don't know. We can authorize it tonight. Amy, I'm going to open up the July 16, 2025 Select Board meeting. Do you have any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the minutes of July 2nd, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Do you have any discussion on the minutes, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Here on to the public comment period of our draft local hazard mitigation plan that Connor and Megan have been working very hard on for us for the last few months, and on back and forth with comments. So is this the last comment period?
Yeah, this is like the official formal public comment period. Other
They already took the vote.
part
I know.
of that process, but yeah, this is the official public comment period. For folks to comment on the draft mitigation plan. And you have a couple copies here.
And I was looking for one.
You can use that real quick. And have it in front of you.
So what I was looking for, Megan, was with all these changes to FEMA. No, actually, town of Wolcott did not get any hazard mitigation grants. Okay,
Well, they haven't been, they've just been submitted. There's a few projects that have been prioritized, but we haven't heard yet about whether the housing issue grants have been awarded.
I got an email on Monday. Is that not the right email?
The latest one that we received is showing the projects that moved forward in terms of me and submitting them to the housing issue grant. That included the along North Wolcott. It included the line across the Flat Road with Fish and Wildlife property. It included those two that still have passing GCAs. Those are the latest correspondences I saw.
I received an email on Monday saying that thank you for submitting this grant round is extremely competitive, blah, 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 blah. So I read it to mean that because it wasn't highlighted on the list, that those were the ones they selected, because they didn't have a key to the colors. They were colored.
Okay, the email I saw did have the Wolcott one, the one across from Flatiron Road, and that is,
They did.
yeah.
So what that letter means, that email,
That basically means that, those two were submitted to FEMA as hazard mitigation grants. And now we kind of play a waiting game to see if they actually get funded or not.
so they had priorities,
They had priorities.
which weren't ours.
There was two enrolled that they had on the list.
High impact floodplain restoration projects were listed as the next mitigation project, and three were selected as top priorities: Ludlow, Manchester, and Montpelier.
Okay. I'm gonna have to follow up on that. I thought I saw those two still.
Anyway, I took it to mean that we didn't get them, but I would love it if you would.
You could forward me that email, that would be super.
Okay, I would love to be wrong.
I hope you're wrong too. Please forward me that email, and we'll follow up.
Okay. I did see Melissa and Seth on Monday, and they met it too. So I guess my question is moot at this point, because my question was, seeing as we didn't get any of them, how does it affect the plan? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, why don't we wait and see, I'll get your email.
Yeah.
And follow up with that too. Get back to you.
Okay.
I had. Perhaps we didn't see that big one. My understanding was they were kind of sitting the kids still. So yeah, how does this affect the plan? I mean, the hazard use plan, those projects are still listed in the hazard use plan in the mitigation action section. And if some reason the hazard mitigation grant funding doesn't come through, it's still good to have those priorities listed in the hazard mitigation plan, for future funding opportunities. So if there any other options in the future. Maybe more nutrient-based options versus vegan funding. But yeah, so we have our public comment period tonight. I just wanted to know that this plan, it's a 5-year plan. We updated it every 5 years. And as Linda noted, we have an official public comment period now. It goes all the way through the end of July. So for the folks who haven't had a chance to look through the hazard mitigation plan, we still want to do that and comment that till the end of July. And I believe it's on the Wolcott website on the homepage, as well as the public comment period, which has my email. Feel free to send me comments if you have any follow-up thoughts. But this plan, it identifies various hazards that communities are vulnerable to. Flooding is obviously one of those top hazards. Identifies other things like power outages and windstorms and other hazards that the community faces. And the mitigation action and projects, some of what Linda was talking about, those actions are on pages 37 to 43, and that's kind of one of the key areas in the plan. We're really talking about priorities for the town is looking to focus on over the next 5 years. Obviously, we may not accomplish all of them, but they're good to have in the plan. So you point out when you're applying for grant applications, and you can say that as a priority and have mitigation plans. In all the hazards table is that one is on pages 11 to 12. So that's just the list of different hazards that are recognized in the plan. And we have a range of mitigation actions for the end of the plan, some of it's infrastructure based, like upgrading bridges and culverts, and that's floodplain restoration. Like projects we were just mentioning, some like road, some flat iron road. So it really kind of looks at a range of mitigation actions. It also looks at actions related to emergency response and improving emergency response as well. So it's also one of the priorities. And I just wanted to know how we're kind of opening up public comment and questions that couple of suggestions that came up that Ryan and I were talking about recently are maybe adding for the flood inundation map from the flood modeling along the Boyle River, putting that in the plan so you can see a little clearer, those flood inundation areas in local village. We could also do like the E91 structures map that shows the flooding areas and structures more clearly, aerial background. And then also we're talking about flood gauges and the opportunity of installing a flood gauge in Wolcott upstream of the village. So that way you have no warning. You actually have a warning and it helps inform where to evacuate in the village. You want to perhaps move the equipment from town garage and fire department to higher ground. So I think exploring funding for a flood gauge could actually be added a mitigation action item. It probably would make sense to put that as an action item in the back of the plan here as well. So I just wanted to note that. But yeah, this plan is one of your 4 ERAP requirements. So except we have to do it every 5 years, and it does help maintain the town status for emergency relief assistance funding when you have a declared disaster. I talked too much, but are there any comments, questions related to housing mitigation plan? Any feedback that folks have from the draft?
No, I guess I'm curious about the board's feeling on pursuing looking at the flood gauges. I had a conversation with Melissa, her counterpart today, Johnson. They actually, there's a company that they just worked with, and Willow Mills just purchased a gauge to put in their facility for the Guion River. And what it do is it'll actually send a signal out when it hits a certain point and notifies people who are on the list to be notified. To get a little bit of forewarning, they're about $6,000 a piece, which is
Most of it?
about 6,000 a piece, which is less than the USGS has its own type of flood gauge, which is much more real-time data information that they do have in Johnson as well. I mean, actually go online and look at that,
Yeah.
but that's upwards of $10,000 to $20,000 plus the upkeep each year, which is significant. So this other option is more affordable and would give us at least signals to let us know when it's hitting a certain point, to allow us to take those steps versus what we do now is just kind of look at the river and make the best guess at it. So at least it'll be a little bit more data driven. I think it'll be worth looking at. Happy to kind of talk around and see if there might be people who would be willing to donate towards it versus having to come out of the budget. We want to do more than one. I guess my questions around the plan were more just for the board on, like, you guys designate times to have conversations about the items that are on the plan. Things come to mind like fire station, highway department, trying to find an alternate location for them in the future. So I'm not sure where you guys are progressing those conversations or.
I guess in conversations with, but it's easier if you just kind of put your fingers out there and talk to people. And so I've already started with some property owners who also PC. We can sit and plan and come up with something, but what we really need is a consultant or a feasibility study. So like I'm on the lookout. For one to come along, but I put out feelers, to the people that, would know about feasibility studies and so forth. Actually, Tasha mentioned a grant. What is it, a CBD grant?
Probably the $3 block grant.
Yeah, she mentioned that she knows I'm looking for that to be a study. And because there's money now, if you were shovel ready, but we're not. But there is money, planning money now. And we need to plan. So when money comes, we're ready. So that's what's up. That's what I'm doing anyway.
Right, is that something that the board wants to set aside a piece of time in the meeting to actually have a discussion about if there's, I'm just wondering, like, who do we like sit and solicit that to? Or potentially.
So we can sit here and just speculate, but I don't think it will get us anywhere.
Oh, I know, it's like, so you have a company in mind that you would hire and then.
No, that's not how it works, Dave. You put your feelers out, you look at plan, you know there's a need. You let people know that can help you find a grant or money for a study. And so when you have to put a study out, you have to follow your RFP, for that. And depending on where you get that grant money, they set the terms of what you do. You'd have to put it out for bid for a consultant, someone who's qualified. If you get the grant. But I'm slowly we can sit here, but I don't think we can get anywhere by just sitting here and talking about it. We can all dream about a place, but that's not going to get us anywhere. And that's my.
Okay, so.
That's my.
No, and I think it's a significant thing that really warrants a serious conversation around, or serious steps towards bringing it to life. And that's what I would support that endeavor. Yeah.
I guess the select board could say that's a priority, and we could
Yeah,
all,
that's fine.
all just kind of start working on,
I don't know if the rest of the board feels like it's a priority, or if it's, I guess that's right. That's what I guess I was trying to judge, is like, we're in the realm, because a lot of these things have the same kind of priority level to them. And so how do we pick away at some of those and see which ones are really the ones that we want to focus on? And have them sit out, because that's a significant project.
they're all good, and like I said, the show, you have to have faith and you have to have patience, and you just have to get out there and see what's out there, and then when you see something that fits, you grab it. That's how it works.
If you're asking for another board member's thoughts as to whether or not it's a worthwhile endeavor, I'd love to see a new facility in a place that doesn't occasionally see 3 feet of water. I don't know where you're putting feelers out. I'm posting on some 44. I don't even know where you would cast a line. I can think of a bunch of beautiful places around town that would be great for it. They're all privately owned by people that I don't think are eager to sell.
Well, I've talked to Dana. He knows. He wants a lot of money for his house. But in our conversation, he talked that, in the near future, he's gonna start subdividing lots up there in his pit. I mean, you just have to talk to people. I don't know where else, but maybe if you hire a consultant, they will come up with something I never even thought about, or the board thought about, which would be. But we don't really want it up on the hill somewhere either. We want it in the village, but we don't want it to flood. We want to move the water system, the sewer system, when we build it down a little further. There's lots of things that I think about. But I think it is the next priority that we should try to work on. Big priority, we can pick it the little ones.
We are now kind of like access the school as a shelter now, so we just have that availability. Supplies for it is the next step, and put some supplies for it, or like the
Yeah.
next step. The storage container and get some, keep those in so they're readily available, like we start that conversation. What else we see in the report, that helps on that aspect, so. Kind of keep slowly just moving in a forward direction on it.
So right now, it's kind of dismal in terms of grant funding. But a lot of times public safety has grants out there, that's how we got our generator. Letting the planning commission know that these are some things we're looking at, and they know all the grants. They'll say, hey, we found this, you might be interested.
Oh, and in a plan that does talk about, kind of more for your planning commission, but just making sure that the town has rules and regulations in place around not developing in those flood zone areas. Is that anything that has been updated on that end, or is it just has been talked about?
Seth actually asked for some money, didn't he, to update some of our zoning?
Yeah, so I think the bylaws,
Yeah, the zoning bylaws.
were updated in like 2016,
Yeah.
2017, that time frame. And then the municipal planning grant that you got for Wolcott and Elmore was to do some zoning bylaw updates primarily around Act 47, which is the home act. But I believe there's not opportunity to look at other aspects of the zoning bylaws.
He asked for some extra money to help us update the zoning.
Yeah.
Flooding,
I think we did.
yeah,
I know we discussed that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So at the
It's been a
same
really-
time, he would incorporate, because the state's coming out with its new river corridor maps. I don't know if they're out there, are they?
Well, the Act 121, the legislation was passed last year, so that's basically like changing the recorder essentially. Moving forward. So he would incorporate river corridor language in bylaws, so that would be more in compliance with the state legislation.
I just think it's important that we try to minimize the potential impact of life safety to make sure people are not developing in those spots. Especially like the historic athletic and the.
I agree, and there's also another part of zoning that they didn't put in, the planning commission last time, but I'd like to see it in because it gives you, more, the state will pay more of a reimbursement on the FEMA projects, if you have that in your zoning. Whether there'll be a FEMA, I don't know.
Right. Currently, if you adopt,
What is it?
currently if you adopt river corridors, it's like we go from the 12.5% ERAF to 17.5%. I'm not sure about how or if that will change. One like the state is adopting river corridors. I guess that's to be determined by ANR, but that is the current scenario. Adopt river corridors, get a boost in ERAF.
So Michelle, can you put in the notes that we need to confirm with Seth that he will be working? Did we get that planning grant? I know.
Yeah, it's
That
playing
confirmed with Seth that he will be working on updating the corridor zone into the zoning.
Yeah.
And we can let you know.
So grant was received, the contract for it now, it's just one of those consortium setups, I think Elmore actually the big.
Right.
E10.
As we already have.
Right, well, very. But yeah. But there's a bylaw as well. For that process. I think the template that A&R has up for river corridors is gonna be pretty similar to, you know, what their new template could be. That you find in Act 121. So if you're interested, you know, I'm sure that will share those templates as well. I don't think it's gonna be a huge change, you know. The current one, whatever they present. In the coming months.
Just wondering like how does that incorporate what's actually occurred for flooding versus like what's corridor historically looked like? Do they adjust that based on recent events over the last couple of years? Do they expand them or do they?
When they do the river corridor mapping, they do look at stream day market assessments, you know, and we finally have any people last year, I look at that too. I mean, the corridor is, river corridor is kind of similar to the 500-year floodplain. In many cases, it's not always the same, but you kind of think of it as, well, it's going to be closer to your 500-year floodplain. Yeah, so it's in the Cassets areas that are inundated during that one big flooding event when so that's people is. Okay.
It's like business you forgot.
Yes. Any other questions on hazardous plan?
I think you did a good job.
Okay, well, thank you. So thanks, Linda, again, for your very thorough review of the plan and Michelle. Did it. For your input, right? So in terms of next steps for the hazard mitigation plan, so we'll incorporate the feedback that we've discussed tonight. And I also sent it off to BEM because they have to do their preliminary review of the local hazard mitigation plan. So BEM will have some comments, they always have some comments, but that's okay. So Conrad and I will, or one of us will likely come back to you in August. Are you still having an August select board meeting? August 6th. Maybe. Okay.
Yeah. No, past select boards don't do this.
Yes. I think so. So if for some reason you don't have an August one, if you do have an August select board meeting and we have, say, DM's comments back on the hazard mitigation plan, we can, you know, give you a rundown of what the comments were and how we plan to address them. And then basically in September, you could be looking at adopting your hazard mitigation plan once all the comments from DEM are addressed. And then, you know, after you adopt it, it goes back to DEM for kind of their final approval. And they have to send it up the chain to the FEMA for their approval as well. That's the timeline you're looking at. But, you know, if you have time, you're on a good schedule. The current plan doesn't expire until November. So you're on a good schedule.
I really appreciate you helping us through this. It's a lot of work.
Input. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work as well.
I see I skipped over comments from the community and correspondence. I apologize. Do you have comments from the community?
I just got a couple questions, probably should have asked Linda, but is the Wolcott Town Hall available for use?
It is when the ballet's not in there, but yeah, I keep the schedule. I have the schedule. Yes,
It is
yeah,
on a regular basis.
if it's not, if the ballet isn't.
Okay, it's not scheduled the Wolcott Ballet, and I can walk by and get it from Belinda.
Michelle, you have the schedule for the fall yet?
Yeah, we've already signed up,
Okay, so Michelle can help you with the, yeah.
So if I come over tomorrow, we can give me a schedule, so I can take it to the people that want to hopefully use it.
I'll try to find it. I think, I just have to find out if it's, I think it's been solidified.
So if it's available, then you need to reach out to me because I have a calendar. I'm the one that schedules these.
Okay, well, I told them they'd have to talk to you, but they're just not comfortable yet. They wanted to know, because it said Wolcott Ballet, if they would like to use it several days a week. If not, they have other plans.
Day or night.
I think probably the day, but I'm not certain. I will talk.
So usually the days are pretty available.
Days are more available.
Yeah.
But like,
Sometime before 2:30, except for Saturday.
Yeah.
say it again, days before 2:30, except Saturday.
Yeah, they come in around 3.
Okay, and what about Saturday? What's the-
Saturday, they're there till 1.
Till 1.
And then we've got some events that are looking to schedule like dances and stuff in the evening.
Yeah, well, this would be a regular basis, probably 2 to 3 days a week. If not, they have other plans. So they are going to do this town, which
Yeah.
so that's all I got. Now,
Okay.
it's hotter in here than it is up there. If Jackson's in there, I'm gonna try and get it in. He was out the other night, and thankfully Kurt had a key, so.
Larry,
Yes. I did a show this week.
Okay.
Me,
okay,
not very good. Thoughts.
okay,
Reading metals.
nice, okay.
And it's supposed to be able to get covered soon, but I didn't get my information soon enough. So we'll have to probably next week if you have a meeting.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with us, the covenants.
It was.
No, that's between, they get recorded when the deeds are sold, the lawyer and stuff. We just need the name, and then when the lots are, when the driveways are like set, you need to let Tom know, and they'll give you the E911 numbers.
Well, the driveway is there at the bottom of it, so the bottom.
Well, you have your drive.
Yeah, and then there's another one that goes up. I usually have a whole run. So.
Well, you work with him, with the listers, or Sam, Tom or Sam. They'll work with you, but he's going to name that private road Cleveland Meadows.
Cleveland, the traditional Cleveland stuff.
Cleveland.
That's the private.
Yeah, and that is that road.
That's the right.
Do I give that to Tom? Is it just in the meeting minutes? I mean,
I can do. Thank you very much.
Well, good job.
He shouldn't be outside.
We just learned he's 10 yesterday.
What'd you ask?
Belinda.
I think he's 11. I'm pretty sure because that's when I got my cat. I wanted to take him, but I already had Mabel, and he was wandering it. So I'd go with 11 or 12, preferably 11. He's a good boy. He's probably been here, though. He probably took him in 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But he was, because I know Madison who owned it, it had to be the one. He'd be good.
Okay, correspondence, let's get on them. So we have here a pass around the contract for 3670 North Wolcott Road. We awarded that to
Not like
Lowest bidder.
34.
30. So,
That's the one in North Wolcott Village.
yeah. They seem capable.
Just one concern is that they didn't put in any money to fill. They didn't put in money to fill. That's my-
Call a meeting with them.
I'm looking into. For that meeting to set it up. tell me what you think.
I haven't decided, you said Friday, Monday. I'm gonna save the interlocal agreement.
And those are for signatures.
I'm gonna say that some of you have your discussion.
And that, yeah,
And then there is, NSI has, donated, $250 for our barbecue. Here's a thank you letter. That's around. Pardon? August 22nd. Yeah, they wanted it earlier this year because Michael always goes away.
Which is usually the town barbecue. So.
He thought we didn't invite him this year.
Yeah.
Very calm.
I would, and I told the wife, I'm gonna chain her to my wrist, and she's coming with me.
So, we're going to table the, tax rate discussion. Because we don't have everything from. We need to set the tax rate. We're having a problem. with The computer in the tax department. So we'll do that at our next meeting. It's not looking good. So the rate is not looking good. We had a discussion here last week. The state has changed the way they assess utilities. They've made it a statewide assessment, and small rural communities have lost out. It has to do with users. And it took, I don't know, 2.3 million off our grand list, something. With no warning whatsoever. Ready, Michelle?
Yes. So we checked out, the health officer checked out the complaint 277 Flatiron Road. Found that there was no trash sitting around, however, there are old vehicles on site. Approximately 4 that he can count that were unregistered. And that exceeds the 2 vehicles that are allowed based on our ordinance, ordinance, yes, based on our ordinance. So there's a precedent here, I think, of what we want to do. If we pursue this particular resident, we need them to pursue all of the residents who have vehicles that exceed the 2 unregistered vehicles in town? Or do we pursue this one and not worry about a precedent? I don't know, it's up to
Did
me.
you see the complaint? That's usually how we've acted on our ordinances, that we didn't just go after people in the village, but we received an official complaint we needed to act on it. But I'll let the rest of the board speak.
What does act on it look like? Some official notice or calling a record?
Sending, oh, they're entitled to a letter, a hearing.
30 days to clean it up, post 2 days, and then you estimate the efforts since 35.
What happens on day 31?
If nothing happens and they don't wish to have a hearing with us, then we send, issue a violation. And then the violations, I don't have it in my head, but it's like $200 per violation, up to 800 or something. Those are official, they go through the state judicial.
Traffic bureau.
We got a judicial court.
I do worry about opening that can of worms. There are a lot of properties in town. I worry that it will feel a little like selective enforcement if we go after one complaint as opposed to enforcing it townwide.
The thing to note here is there were no signs of rodents, and the last two, well, the first one up on, right up, yeah, that one definitely was confirmed to have rats. The second one, it was just a bunch of drive-bys who wanted something done. But
Our ordinance doesn't discuss rat.
so it discusses a health hazard, like trash. And the state had to get involved on the first one. Second one I issued because we had a bunch of complaints. But it was issued for trash, not for the.
So what's the sense of having an ordinance if we are not going to enforce them? I mean, it's just stupid. Why have one? We need to repeal it.
Well, I thought years ago, Deb had said that there really wasn't any actionable items with that junk thing, and that's why that whole junk thing fell apart. Because there was no teeth behind it.
Well, they didn't evidently know how to go about it because we've been able to. Years they tried to deal with Moore Hill, and within a month they were able to deal with it nicely. I don't know. What they did was they called in the state, and the state then took it over and said, we'll take it over, and then they never did anything. I think that was their first mistake.
I mean, to your point, it is currently an ordinance that was adopted by a board at some point. I mean, our hands are kind of tied by that. Right? If we're gonna have the ordinance, we have a duty to enforce it unless we want to repeal it.
So it was not only adopted by the select board, but it was petitioned by the voters to repeal it. And it was voted at town meeting overwhelming to keep it.
The thing is, it doesn't say anything in the ordinance either about this one being enforced yet.
Comments from the community?
I mean, I get the idea of like not going out looking for issues. You have an ordinance there, so when you have complaints that come up, that you have some level of being able to act upon them, so you choose versus not having any, like the stand on, allowing something to just progressively get further out of control. So it is like it's a guardrail for you guys to work within. But I think if you have people making complaints, then you have to somehow address that. Otherwise, it's just like there's a lack of action, and what's the point of making a complaint? That's just my 2 cents. And what's the town's, what do you guys set precedence wise on how you responded and how you address the issues? I mean, is there a level of being able to work with these people, with the residents, and try to come up with a solution that works for everyone. And, I mean, get to the end goal is to clean up the stuff. Versus just slapping fines on someone who may not pay it. Therefore, what are you gaining out of that?
Ordinance does offer an option to build a wall to cover, hide it.
We could include in the first letter, the name of people who will come and pick up junk cars. It might be just a phone call. Is that helping them?
Or, I mean, I think first step is getting a level of engagement. Send a notice and you invite them to a meeting, have a conversation about it and see what the barriers are and then.
Well, we do in the letter, we do invite them. They can act on it by themselves and they can come in and talk to us.
Actually, with the one on White Hill, years ago, there was an agreement to give a rebate or to have.
No, they allowed them to dump it, keep a tab at the transfer station to clean it up. But then they stopped, then they never paid us the tab.
Didn't that come up in an abatement meeting at some point?
Yeah.
And that didn't work. This time they got their own dumpster.
I mean, I do agree. We've gotten a complaint. Our hands are tied by the ordinance that was put in force and voted, how long ago was the?
It happened around COVID because they
So-
didn't feel like, voters didn't feel like, because of COVID and stuff, and not people knew. And so actually when people voted, it was during the time where everyone was voted, mailed a ballot.
Yeah.
During the town meeting.
But within the last decade, the voters have
Yeah.
asked to keep
4
this.
years ago.
Yeah, so. I do believe we at least have to send a letter. What happens after that, but
Is he living there?
Yeah.
He does live there.
It's not light up in the neighbor's arm.
He has a gun.
sorry.
Does he have a gun? Was there a gun incident there? Huh?
Popular list.
Well, um.
Phone call? Oh,
They send a letter by snail mail and letter was certified. Give that a time. I'll give it time, 33 days. And then send officer over there again. If there's progress, send them a letter saying, thank you for the progress, and then give them another date.
Just made an observation.
Just an observation, did not go to the door. Or if he did, we could do an answer. He said he would do.
And you can invite them to a select board meeting for, options. Yeah. About putting up a fence or even some, people would take his cars away.
Yeah, that's good. I do list the full ordinance and talks about them and send the letter so we can cite it and then, gonna mention that,
It's a property in his name.
uh,
277, you said? I happen to have the price of it. Talking about relocating.
Promise. Take the mother.
Relocating the county.
I'm sure it is.
It's a woman's name.
In the Fremont. But those vehicles are used. We've already been through
Yeah.
when she was on the. He was gonna fix them up.
Move on. Are we done here?
And so I don't think I would go after anyone without a complaint. I wouldn't personally.
Devil's advocate here. If I were a person that had received a letter from the select board, and my first question would be, what about this one, this one, this one, and that one? And if you try to impose fines on me, let's impose. So I guess that would actually empower the select board, because then we'd have our official complaints on all these other properties. Okay, sure. I think I, for one, would like to see that repealed. I think that it's, as long as it doesn't pose a health issue, I think people should be able to do what they want, but given that we are bound to the will of the voters, our hands are tied.
Have a conversation with you about
I'm certain you're good. I'm certain
that it's not doing any damage to the environment. By working with those,
Yeah.
Okay, as far as the highway department, they're brush cutting, I rented the brush cutter for 2 weeks, they're on week 2. Getting some complaints, but I think that's to be expected. We also contracted with, Michelle Reno to cut some trees on North Wolcott Road that were near the Johnny Country sheds that were up high on the ledge, and we were getting a lot of complaints that they were hitting the taller vehicles on North Wolcott Road. And so Dylan and the road crew went up to assist Michelle Reno in cutting those. Those were done yesterday or today. The roadside mowing is nearly complete. In the last flood that began on July 10th, I don't think that there were enough damages in the state to have it declared a disaster, but I did send in our estimated damages to V-Trans because they were seeking that information. And we had major repairs to Elmer Pond Road and Corley Road primarily. Corley Road, there was a washout near the bridge, just south on the southwest side of the bridge. So not on the 15th side, but the other side, up to the guardrail. It was about 100 feet in length, and about 10 feet wide, and it just kind of washed out the road. And so Dylan estimated that we needed to put down 4-foot rocks, 4-foot diameter rocks on one layer of riprap, and then top it with 2 3-foot stone on top. Given all this, and given the fact that to reach over the guardrail and to get into it, we need to clean it out. But it's been back for rents. An excavator, 35,000-pound excavator. We can tag that on to the Elmer Pond excavator rental so that we don't pay delivery again. But I think it's going to cost us about $5,400 to repair that portion of Corley Road. It was also damage sustained up at the portion where Corley Road class 3 meets the class 4, you know, that culvert. That just messy culvert. And then I don't have the estimate for the damages from Dylan yet on Pond Road. And I don't have the storage yet. I talked with Andrew Ross about the Warner Fiber Net, and they were going to give us, the fiber net is going to give us, or Fidium will give us free Wi-Fi for community space. Andrew confirmed what Scott Got his last name. Scott. With FiberNet or Fidium said that they cannot, Linda, let me back up. Linda had asked if we could put free Wi-Fi up at the, North Wolcott Road for the fire department to use to stage emergency vehicles. And both, Andrew and Scott said that that can't happen because the equipment requires a building space and requires heat, so it's just not gonna work in an area on the Wolcott Road. He did say that we could replace Starlink here, so our public Wi-Fi in this building, Starlink, we could get rid of Starlink with this free internet. Or we could put it at the library. I think we should put it here to get rid of Starlink, because the library is already on consolidated. And then he did say that we could move it over to the schoolhouse at any time, if that's ready. It wouldn't cost us anything. So, the next step is to have the technicians come in, see what our reach will be, what our reach needs to be, and then they provide the router and everything for free. So that will save the town a little bit of money if we get rid of Starlink.
I have a question. If this is a free internet for community use, for public use, that can't be used for town use.
No, but we have the public use for Starlink right now. And the town, I can still pop on.
Right. Are there plans for the town to switch over to fiber as well?
I don't know yet, that I haven't. We're still unconsolidated and they're kind of one company, so we have one that comes through, I think it's a DSL that serves the network. And I think we may have to keep that's consolidated, I'm not sure.
Well, that's what I'm hoping you should be able to, if fiber is available at the building, is to move the town to Fidium, get rid of the consolidated DSL,
Right,
and get rid of the Starlink.
right.
And
Yeah, when it comes through, as it comes through.
I have to call tomorrow.
Yeah.
Supposed to, they say call tomorrow.
Yeah, so I thought the whole deal was to see how much that costs versus what we're getting and the speed, and get rid of all the other stuff if it's better.
Oh, Fidium's gonna blow away everything in this building.
We will do that, but I don't have that information yet. I was just calling up the free Wi-Fi as well. So we'll have a public Wi-Fi that's free to us, and then possibly I just have to do the pricing.
I just imagine it's not appropriate to use the free Wi-Fi for town business.
We will,
Right, because security and everything.
but by using the free Wi-Fi, by bringing that in, you get rid of Starlink.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that we use Starlink for the free one.
We're not.
We're not.
No.
We are not.
No,
No,
so
no, we are.
The Starlink is password protected.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
set up hardwired to Zoom and it's password protected, so that one is only available to, like, office staff know the password. So they've used it, jump on it, I'm sure you do. But we don't have that posted anywhere outside.
I couldn't find on a bill.
Yeah, it is.
I
It's
could
the
not
big,
find it
the
on the
big
page.
deal. Big deal.
I looked and I didn't see the one for the phone number here. I didn't see a free, I mean, I don't know.
No, it's the 2669 number,
Yeah, it's the DSL.
the 2669.
Yeah, that's what Belinda told me it was, and I didn't see it. I thought I even sent the bill to Anthony, he didn't understand it. Like,
Well,
he's like,
that's where everything is.
Yeah, the DSL line
Facts are,
is
yeah,
supporting the land records that are accessible, I believe, is that still on the DSL line?
yes, because of the IP. is-
On that same DSL line is split off in public Wi-Fi. And that's why, I mean, it's horrendously
It's
slow.
great.
And well, we don't charge people to use it, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm pretty sure. the town pays.
We set it up out there during COVID, for people would sit here and do their homework, kids from high school.
Yeah, it's not a free Wi-Fi from consolidated.
No,
The town is paying for that internet service, and they just created a free
I
Wi-Fi.
thought we did.
Right.
same as at the town hall is a free that we are paying for.
I mean, we could do a free one
We're
outside,
paying for that,
yeah,
same thing.
but it'd be the same thing, the town's paying for it. I just figured since we had the other one, we would really need to open the Starlink to the public, but, you know, if we choose to, it can be done. But if you have fiber here that the town's paying for, you could create a division of it that could be public without even bringing in the other one. I mean, because it's so much bandwidth that it just isn't really an issue. So
Maybe we'll put it at the library.
that's what I'm thinking, is the free one might be, since you're gonna put a town paid one in this building anyway, maybe put the free one in the library. Or a different town building somewhere else.
And then it could still be transferred when we move over.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, actually, that would make the library the smart one. Yeah. I should just have video installed at the house. I just today. It's just great.
What do you call it when you separate these?
Yeah, you can just create a separate subnetwork. Or a guest network. No way you were looking at me when this came up, you were looking right at me.
Yeah. I was looking for it.
I was just going up the bill. I can't talk to you a little bit. Anyway, the 3670 North Wolcott Road demolition, it was, as you saw, the bid was awarded to Kentucky. We were able to donate the kitchen cabinets and county cups to the Boy Scouts, windows and front door were donated to the first requester, and then I hauled all the paint that was usable to Country Home for free recycling. And that house is pretty gutted now, it's gonna go down pretty quick. So, yeah, so we were able to recycle almost a significant portion of the house. I am listed as a signature on the Elmore Pond grant. So I just need board approval to sign this grant. It's for the Elmore Pond culvert replacement. This is the better roads. And you can pass it around if you like. It's the amount they are awarding is $14,300, and our portion of match. Right, my match is $3,575. So if the board wants to give me signatory authority, or I can write back to them, and that's what they put in this.
Make a motion to authorize Michelle to sign a
I'll second.
Elmore Pond Road. All those in favor? Opposed? So carried.
What about the camping van? Yeah, later, that's later.
Well,
That's later. That's all I have. But then we're probably moving right into the hyperkin agreement. So I emailed out the hyperkin agreement by the 26th. They have increased their fees, the panel, the Lamoille County or the Lamoille County panels. Of note is on page 4 that the panels has the option now to charge $50 a day to use the kennels for the dogs that are claimed by their owners. They will still charge $25 a day for dogs that are unclaimed, which is what the town's responsible to cover. And it said in the contract that this is at their discretion. That discretion isn't specified, and Alex with Hyde Park, the Hyde Park manager who actually coordinated this final, we hope it's a final agreement, said that he doesn't know what it means either. And so what I need to know from the board is, do we increase our impoundment fee charge that we charge to the public from $25 to $50 a day for claimed dogs that are kenneled while working for the owner? Because our budget can't absorb doubling fees.
So did you read it? In addition to the annual fee, the $5,000, Wolcott shall pay to Hyde Park daily shelter fees in the amount of $50 per day that each animal from Wolcott impounded at the Hyde Park Animal Shelter that are released to the animal registered owner. This fee is assessed at the discretion of Memorial Kennels. We're paying Hyde Park. It doesn't say we're paying Memorial Kennels.
Hyde Park then bills, so they bill Hyde Park, so we always pay Hyde Park for everything. And then they, Hyde Park handles this contract, and then they pay the kennels. So the kennels actually has an agreement with Hyde Park, but then Hyde Park makes these sub-agreements with all of the towns that participate. I did talk to Ally with Passion for Paws today, and I have set up, I'm going to be talking to Alex tomorrow, Alex from Hyde Park, about how it's start moving forward for a different kind of kennel agreement next year with the company, possibly Passion for Paws. So that discussion is moving forward.
The other thing that says this agreement will begin on the first day of June. I know that when we first agreed to it, I put July 1st because it was our new fiscal year. So that was going to be changed. And we have to give them 180 days notice when we're going to pull out. That's 6 months.
I don't think we'll be ready to pull out for that.
We need to. We can't afford it.
But we're going to be pulling out that. I don't know if they're going to have, I mean, we can't just do that. So
We can't walk.
I know, like, I mean, we're lucky, but
We can't. You don't think it's the reality of finding something, getting something together in 6 months?
quote you, patience. Patience.
Do I need to be on the committee?
If you want to put feelers out.
We're having that conversation tomorrow, because I already talked to Ally, and she said Alex has been in touch with her as well.
So,
She just doesn't have the space, and so she would need money to build something. I mean, it's for what we all need. Unless just our, and I don't, she works with Hyde Park, so I don't think she's gonna let just Wolcott contract with her if we pull out of this agreement.
well, Morristown is very interesting. You know,
Oh, I
if
know.
they are going to do, you know, there's other towns that they might have another place too that.
At worst, we're stuck at this amount for another year, so we can fund our panel to get built up to speed, to be able to handle up to, $5 or whatever for the town. So you have to reserve that space.
My goal is that in 180 days, we will send them a notice and tell them that as of June 30th, we're terminating.
I would love that too, and that's why we're talking, that's why Alex and I are going to start talking tomorrow. Because he and Ellen was off today after I talked. anyway, the decision, we just need to know if I can start charging, we can start charging $50 a day for plain dogs that are being kennelled to recover this. At the discretion of, I don't even know if they're gonna be charging us, but Alex suggested that we start collecting it and to be consistent.
But why isn't the fee paid when the owner picks up the dog, right to the kennel?
You know,
So what does the owner do? Do they go to Hyde Park and pay it? Do they write a check to the town of Hyde
the
Park?
owner pays us, and then Mike releases the dog to them. And then we get billed at the end of every
Oh,
quarter.
you're right, it's that, I mean, that is ridiculous.
If we don't manage the contract, so.
So the dog owner has to come here, pay us,
And prove
Get it
license
open.
registration.
then go and get their dog.
And prove.
Send their money to Hyde Park, and then send it to the counties.
Billed for it.
So if we collect all our fees and then we put it in high yield savings, then we can collect interest, but don't quarterly bill it. It's a good program.
So if you fire it, highway front,
Who's gonna get it?
highway front.
Hang on, we all don't.
Like I said, Mauritius were interested in them building their barn up there.
Tom doesn't need such a big office. We got 2 or 3 there.
Or retire anyway. Okay, so, we probably at some point are gonna have to change our ordinance to have the authority to charge them.
It doesn't list in the,
Or it doesn't list how much it
it
costs.
just says that the town can collect the appropriate fees.
Oh, good, that's great.
Perfect.
Well, I guess just by default, by signing this, that, it covered it, that's the cost, that's our contract.
You don't need a motion to sign this motion.
I think the board needs to make a motion to agree to signing the interlocal agreement regarding animal sheltering between the towns of Hyde Park and Wolcott. The following year. A second.
You need that motion?
I'll second.
Any other comments?
Just that there's not a whole lot of choice involved.
No. All those in favor? Opposed, so carried. I just wanted to have a vague general discussion, just start thinking about, future FEMA, flooding, repairs, starting to get a little scary. And then with Senator Welch on Monday, discussing this new bill, which I don't think will really go anywhere, putting, more of the regulatory rules to the state and towns. But, you know, with lump sum money, but I'm not sure where it's going. I just think we need to kind of somehow be prepared You know, there's lots of articles, 7 days headline, flood aid is drying up. You hear it on the news all the time. Brick grants are canceled. I don't have an answer. They're suggesting that we start setting up some kind of reserve fund for our highway department, you know, for our infrastructure. But, you know, before you know it, it'll be budget time again, and I don't know where we get the money, but I think we need to be proactive, not reactive when the time comes. And we have this wonderful document. I think that we need to really start prioritizing, working on some of these mitigation plans and ideas that we have to just make our town a little more flood resilient. Because I don't think, at least in the next 3 or 4 years, we can count on the federal government for much. I don't know if you agree, Megan.
Two weeks. Yeah, I think the idea of having a reserve fund. Really good idea. I mean, other towns have, you know, that emergency relief site reserve fund. Right.
Would that be worth it
Thousand.
for March? They didn't on the town meeting day. Would it be as part of the capital reserve fund? Would it have a separate one,
Yeah.
separate for it?
Well, I'm just putting it out there, however, you know, if you're gonna set up a separate reserve fund, you have to ask the voters. We do have a capital reserve fund, which we haven't been very faithful in putting money in, but I think we need to. Yeah.
You guys have line item wise just for emergency management. You have a specific line item.
We do, it's pretty bone.
I think it was like $200.
I
Yeah,
was thinking about like if we start creating a list of needs specific for that function, then maybe one of the areas to talk about expanding would be that line item to boost it a little bit. So you need to buy sign packages, you need to buy whatever the kind of materials associated with it. And then have your reserve fund for roads and what have you.
well, we have $500 for emergency management, and that usually is fixing the generator. And we have a stipend of $250. That's what's in this year's budget. Hopefully the generator is fixed. So we basically have $1,000. Kind of like talking about the river gauge issue now. May not be able to afford it 1 year, but if you put money away in 2 years. But to put money away, you have to ask the voters' permission to do that.
Can we do that as a part of our select board budget? In just talking out loud here, say emergency management comes up with, they present us with a budget that says we want to put $100 a year into a savings account towards this floodgate goal. We can allocate money that way.
Saving money. So we could designate that we're putting $100 in our capital reserve fund dedicated for that. Or we would need to set up our own emergency management reserve fund based on voter approval.
So your capital.
You can't really-
Subcategories?
So when we wrote it originally for voter approval, it was for capital improvements in the highway. It was for, I made sure highway was included in there. In case,
And that's in the existing capital reserve fund.
yes,
You add a specific amount to that every year.
That's what I'm saying, we've not been good about it. We had close to 300,000 in there. We collected money that was non-taxpayer money that would come and we would throw it in there. Money isn't flowing like that anymore. We're paying for the bridge, that's about 76,000 our share of the bridge. That will come out of that, but otherwise, this floor, we need a new roof. If we, if one of our highway trucks is totaled and we don't have any money, we have to buy one. So we can only use it for capital expenses. Otherwise, if we want to use it for other things, we have to ask the voters.
Seems like maybe a separate emergency relief reserve fund, does that make sense? So that's what's wrong.
Yeah.
Like when they had the ice jam, for example. Many years ago, but they had to deal with that and they had to say, get the team would come in. Try to break up the ice, and I'm sure they were, in that case, using their emergency relief fund.
I think I would agree with that, and then come in the budget season with an itemized list for the actual emergency management budget. Like pass on to reserve fund, things that we might want to try and acquire.
We'll have that discussion when it comes around. It's fun to bring it up before it gets lost.
The voters would have to create that new fund.
They just give us permission. Like, if you explain it to them, I think they're understanding.
But it wouldn't be possible to do it as kind of fund balance through our select board budget.
I never,
I mean, I think this is a better idea, but just a budgetary question, understanding for me. Again, you're the emergency management guy, you present us with something that says, I need this much money to run this department. And we put it in the select board budget, telling people to vote for it at the end of the year, I didn't use this money, we're gonna allocate this into a fund balance for emergency management, blah, blah, blah.
no, they're really for a specific project in fund balance.
Okay. I just was thinking. like,
And
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Which, yeah.
Well, if we had leftover fuel money, which is scarce, maybe we could reallocate it to something, but I wouldn't want to continually use the fund balance as a way of funding the project.
Yeah, I think your emergency management line item is specific for items that are already designated out. We're not like just saying, hey, we just want to have this there in case, like have a specific purpose for those, and then create your reserve fund. You put X number of dollars in each year just to help start building it up. Hope we can get a couple years into that. Again.
Should put that as a mitigating action in the plan. Establish and maintain an emergency relief fund.
Yeah.
Like that.
Anything on town land policy?
So not so much camping, although that did come up. What I had noticed, so when I sent you an email with some pictures. Thank you. What I had noticed is there has been a couple of different cars. One of them has received a few different notices on their windshield about using the new parking lot in the North Wolcott ball field instead of parking on our plantings and all that hydro seeding that we're asking our contractor to babysit. you'll see, hopefully it'll look you'll see in the picture that they have been driving around the rocks and parking out in the old parking lot. My concern is, obviously, they're not around one of those precious trees. So,
What's the boulder?
because there's a bigger ditch on one side, but it's pretty flat on the other. So they just drive around them. I called last night, and gave them the plate number, and they were gonna call me today and let me know how things turned out, and I didn't hear anything.
They can take it for trespass.
That's good to know. They seemed interested in the plate number when I read it off to them, but I didn't ask any questions. This was the fourth night in a row, 3 previous nights I had left a note on the windshield. So me,
Where are the people?
I believe, so the person that made the complaint, that sees them carrying tents and other camping gear out towards the water. I didn't chase them out there. The other day when I was there mowing the path, there were people that were out there by the water, and when they saw the mower come, they packed all their stuff up and got in the car before I had a chance to get around to them. There's nothing currently. It's another part of. Well, so right now, so anyway, step one, parking, I would like to run it by the select board, I guess, I'm seeking approval. Can I put a log across where they've been driving? I've been kind of donating.
So they're coming in the old parking area?
So the old parking area has those rocks that are across.
Oh, no.
Just on the North Wolcott Village side of that, there is a grassy area that's
Oh.
flat enough to drive on.
Logs up.
Yeah,
I mean, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware, because I happen, believe it or not, to have some logs laying around and the means to do that. So as long as everybody's on board with it,
absolutely.
okay, that will happen.
Did they damage any of the trees?
I didn't, I took some very good pictures. Those were the ones that showed the least amount of the license plate. I didn't need that to be public, I didn't think. I didn't see any damage to the trees in the pictures. That photo there is what somebody is doing to our parking lot. Photos don't really do it justice. But I got a little bit of spin now. Yeah, somebody's been blowing donuts there, and it wasn't so bad in the winter when they would do the donuts because the ground's froze, but. So just thought I'd make the board aware of it while we were talking about this. And then that discussion, right, I got the answer I wanted. I'll put some logs in the way so that nobody can get out there.
We want a parking sign, cheap one, like there by those rocks.
I didn't ask Dylan, but I'm wondering if the highway department has one laying around somewhere.
One more.
No parking sign. Something that would steer them towards our $50,000 parking lot. It was grant money. The next question is camping. If in fact they are camping there, as I said, I didn't walk out and ask them. Does the board want to allow camping on our FEMA buyout stuff? Michelle did some wonderful research, and there are a lot of gray areas when it comes to camping. The one that sticks out to me, though, is that in FEMA buyout regulations, camping is an allowable use by their regulations. We can set policy over and above that. In places where there is adequate warning time in case of a flood. They do not define, that I was able to find, adequate warning time. They don't tell us how long that is. But given how we struggled to get up there in the first place and how quickly the water branch can change, I don't believe we have adequate warning time.
If you're adding a factor in, when you have enough things to be worrying about, if you're just talking about warning people about flood. So you allow campers there,
And there's no,
and it's not a, you know.
there's no cell service, there's no nothing else there. There's no way that you can send a push notification.
Down here.
Yeah,
These other two spots. The other piece is, like Zach Woods has camping sites. They're allowed to camp 2 days. Numerous people camp all summer. So we're opening it up to that kind of behavior as well. And I would discourage that.
So if we were, anyway, if we were gonna allow camping or anything, so I reached out to Vermont Emergency Management and to do any formal request for a reuse plan other than leaving it open. We have to reach out to the state local floodplain administrator to review the proposed uses of acquired floodplain land as well as the FEMA regional office. And we can anticipate it taking a very long time to receive. So at this point, we don't, even though it's a approved use, it doesn't mean we're approved for that use.
I see. So as it stands now, even without a policy in place, that's not allowed use.
No.
The other problem I foresee is, like you said, to get out in there. If they start a grass fire, it's gonna be a bugger.
That's if I hadn't even considered that.
I mean, I hate to say it, oh, Jim, he's gonna tell you, now I'm gonna try to get my ass over there with the truck and.
In their defense, I will say that, Dad has not seen campfire smoke.
It doesn't mean we are.
Well, and who, the next person.
You want to encourage, they use people go fish and, those kind of fun activities, awesome. But camping overnight, you're opening up a whole can of worms that is a lot of other headaches that I don't think the town wants to take on.
You want to put a no camping sign up by the parking lot there?
I would like to go over and above the information that you found. I would like to institute a policy or set an ordinance somehow that we don't allow camping on town land.
But we can do a policy.
Well, that's gonna conflict with your force. Town force, we're talking about camping there, so that's town land, so.
They'll have to come to us. They can't do that without us.
Right, but I'm just saying,
We could amend certain
Yeah.
areas.
but I'm just saying, I'm aware of it.
Or could we change the wording to FEMA buyouts and property that is not emergency
Just
management?
trying not to do it.
But people make.
You don't know.
Yeah, and just, if you're, then that's pretty generalized term that people will understand. I think, yes, if you get to the point of your town forest becoming designated areas, you can work that wording into your.
Well, and with those designated areas, there should be some kind of, I'm gonna use the word reservation system, but what I mean is notice that we're here. In the event of an emergency, someone should be aware that there is somebody out there.
In June 2024, the U.S. Supreme Court issued its most significant decision on homelessness. That involves camping. It ruled that municipalities can now ban people from sleeping and camping in public places, but the LCT did say that okay, they advise municipalities to be careful about removing people from public places unless they have alternative places to direct them toward, because otherwise it can become an issue with the lawsuit. And this is a recent article.
We still need to follow the FEMA guidelines.
So again, yeah, just on FEMA property, but I don't know if that involves the forest.
Well, I wasn't at the meeting, but I did watch the video. There was a woman on Marsh Road who just applied to have a campground there. I think there's a hip camp on Jones Lane.
There's,
Green River is not that far away. I mean, there are several other camping opportunities in the nearby area.
I just think, like you brought up, it's a hazard, because you get a hell of a rainstorm,
And that river moves.
that means it will change within 3 hours.
And again, we don't have the infrastructure in place to be aware that somebody's up there. We wouldn't even know to look for someone until, we noticed the car was there for a week.
So you would like to issue a policy that for a policy that says there's no camping on FEMA buyout property?
My preference would be to put it on town land. There is currently no camping on town land. That would be my preference.
Yeah, I would too.
I think Brattleboro did try that. Let me pull up my notes.
And
There is not a blanket ban on camping in Brattleboro, but there are regulations regarding camping on public and private land, particularly concerning homeless encampments. And then they list a couple of things, what the general policy is, but they said that it's rarely enforced because it's different.
Well, I'm going to something that you had said in one meeting, I don't know, I feel like a year ago. We're talking about signage back when Flatiron's closed. If it's a policy or if there's a sign, it's enforceable when somebody calls and makes a complaint. So if we have a policy, was my
Ordinance. That's the issue, like, okay, speed limits and stuff, now you have to put it in the ordinance, you can enforce it, otherwise it's kind of just a, yeah, for sure.
somebody could ignore our town policy, then that's just kind of whatever.
Just setting the tone, but really policy.
Yeah.
On signage, this is off topic. Flatiron Road, given that come March, that's gonna be your main corridor. Is there something we can do to minimize people parking along the shoulder of Flatiron Road? Especially by the hydrant or the manifold for the school fire system, and then just down where they redid the ditching, there's actually a space there, people are parking in, and it makes it congested, so when that becomes the main corridor, it's just gonna make just an additional hazard of people navigating around our cars.
Who parks there?
People who wanna fish, people who wanna do other stuff.
Oh, fishing, okay. Just like no parking sign?
There were a couple of no parking signs.
No parking on. Over. I think if you put no parking on road, then it doesn't need to be there.
But no parking sign. Just get someone. Used to walk about it, so.
Well, I don't think there's an ordinance that we're allowed to do an ordinance about camping, but you can look it up. It's in the statute, what ordinances we can write. You can't just pick any, this,
Like trespassing.
huh?
Like trespassing. That's like. So like our neighbor heard it. Fit it into that.
Right.
I've seen no overnight camping in other public places.
But, I mean, we do want people to rest with us.
Right, we want people to use the space. Yeah, daytime use only kind of thing, like, or. No,
I think if you would just say overnight, no overnight parking.
On the other hand, I do know that some people have used that parking lot as a parking lot. There's one car there overnight.
No, I mean, out beyond that parking lot, out to the property, if you say no overnight parking.
Well, the idea is they won't leave the parking lot by the tomorrow.
Right, but I'm just saying, if you have it beyond this point, then.
Yeah.
Then they won't be out parking in that field.
Well, I'm just gonna take care of that, it's just people parking in the lot and then going, taking the camping stuff over, setting up shop, so.
And if you're anybody like me, I got a chainsaw, block it up, split it for firewood. I just think it's a hazard. It shouldn't be out there with the vehicle.
It's just,
Looking to get in big trouble drowning.
I got the thing I'm most passionate
Well,
about.
thank you for,
I'll
thank you for.
try and do it.
That's why I didn't want the fishing wildlife plan, I figured that.
At least that was close to the village, with all the eyes on. Fortunately, we just have one watchdog. And then, yeah, I'll look.
We should have something official though, whether it's a policy or what. In case we did need to go to court or something.
I would
I
happily make,
mean, I think we have the grounds on FEMA with flooding.
so that right there. I would happily make a motion to not allow camping on town lands. If I can get a second.
Well, I'll second that. We actually had someone want to camp in our park. And I had to assume why, but they were gonna camp there for the night. Came up the rail trail.
So, pretty motion that we don't allow camping on town lands.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Even though there's a precedent, I think we still see about doing a little policy. I mean, at least we'll have something there if someone fights us, we can say, we're just following this, and then we can go to court if it.
Yeah, well, and it's not without good reason. We'd be in violation of FEMA regulations, plus it increases, safety risks and adds to the plate of our already paid emergency management coordinator. It's not as though this is just a really narrow thing, it's about life safety.
So to recap some of this, the to-do list, we're to get a couple of signs. And then we're gonna try to find no vehicle or parking sign for that portion of the ball field. And then are you gonna put no camping signs up? Do we need to get those printed?
I would say let's start with the logs, or other means of restricting them from accessing that. Because again, I have no confirmation that they are overnight camping. I want to get ahead of that in case that they are. But I haven't asked them, I haven't spoken to them about what they are doing on the property. I do think that we should probably at some point have a bigger conversation about the future use of that, and then maybe spend some money on getting some signs that restrict the access to whatever we agree to it to be. Right now, it's just a mode path. But it might be worthwhile to put some signage up about, either no overnight parking or, no campfire, whatever we decide to use that space for, we should get some signage that reflects that. Hate to just.
Or flood risk zone.
Something, and I don't know that it necessarily needs to be a very official printed retro-reflective on a whatever sign. I think it could be a trail sign or something.
Should this be posted on the website so at least we can have something too? Otherwise, nobody will know.
Yeah, I think that it should.
So just post it on the website for it's not allowed people to town land. And at some point we will change it to say it's with the exception of the forest or whatever, once that's in place.
Yeah, if that does, I hadn't heard that it was a discussion about the West Clippers, but I hadn't heard the town forest wanted to do it.
Yeah, they were thinking of 2 or 3 lodges.
Well, they have that, whatever it's called, what's it called, Vermont huts?
Yeah,
Vermont huts?
they were thinking of 2.
And they come in and they build these huts and stuff, and they maintain them, they lease them, but they're all along, is it the Belmont Trail? They're all up and down straight, and so people can ski and go, and stay in these huts.
Yeah, especially when you just a policy, I think it would be easy, and then roll out camping in designated areas once that's established. It's a little late now, I guess, but is that going to impact the county? The policy that I just asked that we enact, is that going to impact their eligibility to get that up program in place up there?
We'll have that discussion at the time, and we'll amend it, whatever, we don't even have a policy, just have a motion, we can, the next select board can undo our motion.
Yeah.
They're talking a few years from now.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't,
Because they haven't even got the trails, they got nothing up there.
I didn't know if they were seeking funding and some
No.
kind of grant. Guy was going to say, well, you guys don't allow us, so we're not going to let you.
They came to one of the first meetings to talk about it. And if it was on Westover property, it would take a while. I had Michelle write a letter to Flint and tell him to move the storage container back to the bus barn. Because we don't have permission for it to be there. Making me nervous. He kind of just did it. It needs to come back. It's actually on one of the buyout properties.
Okay,
We moved it right.
Ryan was asking about that the other day.
Ooh,
Ryan,
yeah, I know.
Yes, he's concerned about it being a flood zone. It really is. It's not.
But we do not have permission to have it done. It needs to come back.
I would seek permission to put it back.
I could, I guess, yeah. You said in the letter, I guess.
I would really like to see it back over there. I mean, Flint made a great argument. It makes a lot of sense
Right.
for the usage.
Well, I'll write the letter and maybe by next fall season, we'll have an answer. So what I was really thinking about was, you know, the trust, the people with the community trust, asked today, we had a meeting, it's kind of working with Tori, you know, about how to incorporate our projects together and just what, I'd like to get this, Rebecca Pfeiffer to come up and look at these sites and kind of tell us what she thinks we can and can't do before we officially apply to do something and send it on to FEMA. But it'd be good if we could start narrowing down a plan. So, I mean, I'm not even. Slash the state, taking it away from now. You can always take it away. I did get approval to keep the water.
Great.
I asked him to move it back to the tree line. You know, not have it right up there.
He did say talk to him later on the phone today, and he said that there is a ditch back there, so we can't go back maybe as far as we want to, because it's a great breeze. And he's looking for, he wants to put a valve on it, so it's easier to turn it on and off, but he said to take it all the way to the tree line, he feels like it's not going to be, there's a ditch, so.
Well, it's in the ditch now. I mean, it's underground, but.
It's got a good height. So it's,
Well, he wants to put the hydrant there. I didn't ask for a hydrant or all that other stuff. I just asked him to cap it.
Did you mention what size the line was?
we already bought
Quarter of 1 inch.
I'm just thinking I've got a, I would have to check to make sure I still have it, but I used to have a 1 inch curb stop. You have to buy the curb stop box. If it was a 1 inch polyethylene line, I would happily give away my curb stop.
That's it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a valve that gets buried, 6, 8 feet underground, and then you buy the curb stop box, like you see in streets, they got the little round covers on them.
Yeah, I think you already bought, that's the valve, right?
Oh, you did?
You bought pipe.
Okay.
But if you have the current, you said the valves were like 800, and they were pretty expensive. So he wasn't gonna, he didn't really want it, 'cause he's doing this with his own money.
My valve is not like my valve.
For a 3/4 line, you don't need a gigantic valve. Just a little one.
No, I mean, the one that I got was $150 and it wasn't free, but
It's not $800 gate valve. That was one of the cheap JP
I
valves.
just want
Yes.
to move back out of the floodplain, away from the house, so that you don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
I didn't, in my request, I asked not to cap the spring, I never mentioned the lines. But we'll just not mention the lines.
See, the type of valve he's talking about is like a fire hydrant valve. When you open it, it flows, when you shut it off, it drains. That's why it's so expensive,
Dry hydrant.
basically, yeah. The one you're talking about, you shut it off, it's shut off and you just gotta keep it from freezing. Right.
Well, that's easy enough if you're gonna regularly use it in the fall, just in the fall, trying to have a curb stop wrench and turn it off.
anyway.
Well, anyway, I think it would be a great idea if you could get some comments at our barbecue, some more comments. Our event for the schoolhouse was great. We had stickies and a question, what do you want to see here? People wrote one-word sentences and words and put it on the board, what do you want to see? What will bring in here and stuff, and maybe try to collect as much information as you can.
You said you spoke to Tori about that, does she know about that idea?
Well, this woman, Zaya, is working with Tori, but no, not about that in particular, but I was thinking about how well it worked at that event, but I will talk to Tori.
It's like, I love that idea.
Yeah. If you could, have a booth and get people over, maybe a picture of that, what do you envision, And there were tons of responses from that we'll share that would work with your thing. All the things that people wanted to see, events and stuff that people want to see, don't all relate to what we're doing, but things they wanted to see, in their community here. So we'll share that to So the last thing I just wanted to bring up was that we realized there was an error in the select board budget with the sheriff's department dispatch. It says 18,700 and it should be $41,020. So we're short $22,320 in our budget. For that was just a typo, I guess, and nobody caught it. I asked Belinda if she thought we needed to have another town meeting to raise it, and she didn't think so, that we should just acknowledge that this was an error, and hopefully we can try to make it up over the year. Budget. I think things are going to be tight and hard, and I'm thinking of sending out a letter to all the departments and just telling them, yes, the voters approved your budget for this amount, but if you don't need to spend it, they'd appreciate it. It'd be great to have, it's great to have some money left over that you can roll into next year's budget to keep this tax rates down. Like this unforeseen electric thing, which is, I think, is jumping our town budget by 2 cents.
Just that simple assessment.
Yeah,
That's wild.
right. So, that's something that we can't account for. So it's always good to have not spend all your money and have money to be able to roll over into your anticipated revenue. To keep things down. So if we could just acknowledge that in our minutes.
I have that, the Wolcott Sheriff's Department dispatch error. The budget it leaves us short by $22,320. Hopefully, trying to make it a year. We'll be asking all departments to understand this year. Okay.
Yeah, they can, yeah. I don't know what else to do.
And we'll just check out, you get a second down meeting that you haven't had. Going drop. We can have a total going drop.
She didn't, or she said we could run a deficit, but I don't want to run a deficit.
I mean, one weekend, we just go out and do it.
You think you're going 22 right in the weekend?
Bring the beer.
Yeah, I bet you could.
Really?
Oh,
Oh,
I don't know how much the fire department makes, but yeah.
I will file a petition. Isn't there a form on the website somewhere?
If you look at it this way, it cuts our budget down when we go and get what we get. If you can buy 2 complete sets of fire gear,
What's the rules about turning Route 15 into a toll road? You just start connecting it.
Well, we could then North Wolcott, not the state highway.
just don't make it a dime.
Yeah. On the, actually, I don't know if I'm.
Go ahead, I'm done.
So,
Okay.
I noticed one of the revenue items for highway budget for the last few years has been overweight permits, and we're pulling in $300-400
Yeah.
roughly. Wondering, how many companies are filing for those, people that do the deliveries to the outdoor center. Pepsi and Reinhart and all those other people, Black River Produce, are they actually?
I don't know, but I know that I worked for Hyde Park for a while, when I retired, and they keep a spreadsheet. They keep very detailed spreadsheets of all the people and whether they have insurance and they're on it, but I think we just collect them and throw them in.
Someplace, yeah. So I'm wondering if that might be a way, if we could reach out to some of those bigger places, especially that use the North Wolcott Road.
Can you tell me whether who you were to us?
So this,
The Cracker Outdoor Center has really increased delivery traffic over the last 5 or 6 years. And they typically have got Pepsi trucks and, Reinhart food trucks.
Oh, yeah, Black River.
Yes, Farrell's distributing. Also, I don't know where the, like the Jenny or the Craftsbury store. I don't know which direction their deliveries come in, but there are, especially in the early mornings, there's bulk trucks, bulk trucks. There's Hutchins paving trucks. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the name of that.
well, everyone who is, so you need to look, so we need to dig out those permits and probably have a spreadsheet of them, because we don't even know who has them and who doesn't.
But my thought was reaching out to, I can't remember the name of the paving plant that's in Irisburg.
Yeah.
But reach out to those places
Like paving,
and just make them aware that we do in fact own.
Or even anyone who does a job for us, like Blue Mountain Trucking, does he have a permit to go on our roads?
He probably has a state one, but I doubt he's got a local.
He needs one, I mean, that's part of,
Just gravel construction use.
they usually do, but yeah, anyone with, anything over 24,000 pounds.
Well, I had 24 for the 26 for CDL.
26,000.
24.
Yeah,
I would say most of the locals, if not all of them, they've all got the permit. I think that's where we're getting the $400 anyway. I would be really, really surprised to find out that gravels don't have a permit to run on roads.
I'm sorry, I'm ignorant, but is this for a permit that has to be applied for every time, or you get it a year?
we get it every year, and it's $10 for a single truck, or it's 20
See, I don't.
for a fleet. No, it's 5 for a single truck, $10 for fleet. So for $10, you can do your whole business fleet, but you need to send in a certificate of insurance, and you need to send in a list of trucks when you do a fleet, the weight of the truck, how many wheels it has, and that's how many their permit is approved. On that, like 4-wheeler or 8 wheels that are 99,000 pounds.
And I'm hopeful that nobody's watching or nobody hears me, but maybe we should reevaluate what we're charging for those.
We can't, that's a state law,
Ah,
that's a state permit.
I'll find out where that information is, and if it doesn't have a spreadsheet, maybe we can see this. So she should be
It's in a file, it's in a recording file. I don't know, it's your tracking.
Another note, we have the tracking that, so the timesheets. I didn't have a discussion about everybody filling out a timesheet. But Belinda and I are now tracking, we've devised a system for tracking comp time, sick time, and vacation time, because QuickBooks doesn't always track that accurately. It has not been tracked accurately. So it kind of gave Belinda information about, the carryover of sick time, how much can carry over annually, and how much can actually be accrued in the bank, because that just gets wiped out every year and then it starts again, and that's unfair to the staff. I don't even, she's gonna have to go back and see if she can fix that.
Should be able to look at the base, I mean, just put
But
that.
But she doesn't put it on,
it doesn't track
It doesn't.
accurately.
And it's-
software won't track it.
well, it absolutely will, it's all it is, set the payroll equipment.
But it's not when it's overridden and just zero it out.
You can put in, here's a way. If she doesn't have the data that was lost, I can't do anything about that, but when you set up a new employee in the books, there is a section that when you're filling in your payroll information, you can type in hours as of, and you can type the date, you can type the hours. So if there is information somewhere, it can be put into QuickBooks or whatever you guys have designed, it doesn't have to be. I thought legally we had to have it on pay stubs. I didn't think.
well, I've been asking forever, and I asked with Edie, and they kept saying they were working on it, and if you look at it,
The only way they can do it is override. ADP does 80% of the state.
What I think of it is software is limited in what it can do.
So what we have to do is we have to go in and override it. So we manually have to
QuickBooks?
keep.
For ADP's
No,
payroll
ADP,
software.
Their software.
we
Every
we
company-
use QuickBooks, we use.
Right, but this is what I'm saying, we can't do it, and I don't think QuickBooks unless you
Oh, yes, I know
override it.
she knows.
You gotta override it.
Or you may
Keep it, in the budget.
She goes in at the beginning of every fiscal year and sets up like 30 hours for most of us, 30 or 40, that you accrue 1 hour that you work, 50 per 1 hour for 52 hours, yeah. And but that just completely wipes out what you earn. And so I've mentioned that she has to now, we're allowed to accrue up to 120 hours, and you can carry over 1 year's worth into that accrual bank. I don't know how she's gonna fix that. Vacation time is easy because it's just wiped out and reset. Comp time, I will be tracking for the highway department and my banked hours, and really nobody else earns comp time. But I just wanted to know that there was a new system, and hopefully I'll be on monitoring that, so I'll go through the pay stubs. You guys feel free to go through the pay stubs and review those invoices.
You do, but you can't read it. I mean, it's from looking at the pay stub, and I've complained about it for years.
There's one area at the bottom that says sick time, and I think vacation or reverse, and vacation time's over top part on this, on the right side. But the thing is that everybody fills out a timesheet and there's your salary. So I think even salary people should fill out timesheets to track time off. In my opinion.
Because salary is contingent on a certain number of hours performed as well.
Yes, and you still have to track vacation time and all of that, and sick time on timesheets, in my opinion.
Yes.
So I'm working on, she did a draft financial policy, which I'm editing. Because I really feel like we need one. We need checks and balances.
It sounds
It's
like,
gonna take a little bit of time, but
You don't have to play with what's in
it sounds like NEMREC and its billing software. I remember every time when you changed the meter on that software, you had to go play games, trick the meter, trick the number, go get back to zero. NEMREC didn't have the option.
That's
Yeah,
why a
we
lot of
don't
companies
use
won't
any
let
of
you
it.
approve. Because the computer software had deal with it, so they say, you can't approve time, you will be paid at the end of the year. Plus, it's really a liability because if you let them accrue 120 hours, 3 years later, they're making more pay. It's more of a payout. That's why a lot of companies now, you don't accrue and you get it paid off. It's either use it or pay. We pretty much done.
I think so. We'll make a motion.
Yep, motion to adjourn. See you, Rich.
Oh, who's making the motion?
Me.
All right, well, I'll second it. Smart ass.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you, Richard. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Richard. Good to see you.
Take it easy. Hopefully I'll be in for the next one.
I told your wife that I would come and pick you up if you wanted a ride.
I think she's getting ready to have me put down. Have a good week.
Yeah.
See you, Richard.